How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Chav Dalet, Daf 24 of Masechta BavaKama. Friends, friends. Today we're talking about Shor Tam and Shor Muad. Actually, some relatively interesting stuff, Lamaisa. Or, relatively. Alright. So we start in Daf Chav Gimel Mud Beis at the Mishnah, towards the bottom of the page. Ezu Tam ve'ezu Muad. So what's considered a short tam? What's considered a short muad? Muad, kol she'idu vo shlosha yomim. V'tam, mishayachzu bo shlosha yomim. Div Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir Omer, muad she'idu bo shlosha paimim. V'tam kol she'yu atinokis mimash mishin bo ve'enu nogeach. Chevi, you hear that? You hear that? Should we read that again? Start from the beginning. Ezu tam ve'ezu muad. What's a short tam? What's a short muad? Muad, kol she'idu bo shlosha yomim. So if they testify about the shore on 3 consecutive days, okay? The Gemara is going to explain exactly what that means, 3 consecutive days. The Gemara is going to explain exactly what that means, 3 consecutive days. And a short time is that if it goes 3 days without goring, at least that's how I understand it, if it goes 3 days without goring, what is it? Okay, so it reverts back to being a short time. If for 3 days it sees other oxen and it behaves. So Reb Meir says that a short muad is that if they warn it 3 times, not necessarily on 3 separate days, it could be even 3 times in one day. Ooh. And a short time is if the little kids can play around with it and it doesn't go and gore. Okay, it's a patient ox. Okay. My time with Rabbi Yehuda, affected Gemara. How come Rabbi Yehuda says that it has to be 3 separate days? So Omer Abai says, Abai Tmol, right? What does the pasuk say? It says, oh no, I'm reading the pasuk. Oh no, the kishor nagachu mitmol shilshom v'leishmenu ba'alav shalom shalom shatachas ashor v'misiyalo. Let's talk about a short muad. It says by a short muad, it says Tmol chad, mitmol trey, shilshom tlosa, v'leishmenu ba'alav asan the negicha revius. Have you hear this? According to Rashi, there's a machlokas between Abaye and Rava. According to everybody, it's a machlokas between Abaye and Rava. But the way that Rashi understands it, what Abaye is saying is that when the pasuk says Tmol, that's 1 day, Mitmol, that's 2 days, Shilshom is a 3rd day, and then V'lo yishmerenu ba'alav, if even after 3 days, the owner, let's call him Ruvain is not guarding the ox, Asar the Negicha Revius, then comes the 4th goring, that is when will be Chayiv Nezek Shalom. So even the 3rd goring is only Chatzi Nezek. Once he gets to the 4th goring, at that point, Nezek Shalom. Now, Rav Omer says, Rav, Tmol, Mitmol, Chad, that Tmol and Mitmol are both Chad, Shilshom is Trey, and then if even at this point today he doesn't guard it, Chayiv is Chayiv. So meaning, according to Rav, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is that it has to gore, basically the 3rd time already you're going to be chayiv, right? So if it gores yesterday and it gores again today, then already that's twice. The next time it gores, even if it's the same day, you're going to be chayiv. You're going to be chayiv. So the way that Rashi understands the machlokes between Abaye and Rava, friends, this is a big deal, right? Maybe some of the fellows, maybe some of the chevra over here at Babylon Talmud was wondering, how exactly does shor muad work? So it needs to be worn 3 times, and then the 4th time is nezek shalim, but the first 3 times are chatzi nezek, or maybe once already it gores, the 3rd time was already nezek shalim. So it's a machlok. According to Rashi, at least machlok in Abaye and Rav. Abaye says that the ox gets gored. No, the ox gets warned 3 times. After 3 warnings, the 4th time it's nezek shalim. Whereas Rav says that after the 2nd warning, the 3rd time it gores, it's going to be nezek shalim. It's raining outside, it's windy outside, there's people making noise, but not too much. I'm just wondering if it's my neighbor. What's she making noise? It's raining out. I don't know. Okay. Fine. Very good. Let's go weiter. So, what am I doing over here? Where am I? So that's the machlokas. Reb Meir. Now, Reb Meir says it can even be 3 times in one day. My time. Outcome. The Tanya is willing to buy. So, Reb Meir says, Reb Meir, Richek nigichos of chayiv, kerev nigichos of lo kol sheken. That, well, if it's already going to be if it's going to be a shamur, if it gores over the course of 3 days, well then certainly if it's condensed, if in one day the ox poshik goes off the rails, right? If over time it's a shamur, so even when it's even sort of more concentrated, we want to say that all the more so, it should be a shamur. Perfected Gemara. Amrullah, they said to Reb Meir, Zava tochech, what about a Zava? Sharicha ka ri'osea tmeya, kerva ri'osea ta'ora. Who could explain this to me? What's a Zava? Okay. So Midoraisa, the way that Nida works is that if a woman sees Dam, so she becomes a Nida for 7 days. Okay? After 7 days, she's no longer a Nida Midoraisa. Okay, so she sees Dam once, and then count 7 days. During those 7 days, she could see Dam. It doesn't make a difference. But from the first time that she sees Dam, for 7 days she'll be a Nida. Now, for the next 11 days that follow those first 7 days, those are what's called Yimei. Is it called Yimei Ziva? I don't know. Whatever. I don't remember what those are called. But during those next 11 days, if she sees Dam, she doesn't become a Nida again. No. Rather, during those 11 days, if she sees Dam for 3 consecutive days during the next 11 days, she becomes a Zava. If she sees Dam 1 day, so then she becomes a Shomer Yom Keneged Yom. She's got to be on the lookout, the next day to see if there's going to be Dam a second day, to see if she has to kind of be on the lookout to see if she's going to be a Zava. So that's what a Zava, and then a Zava is an Avatuma, right? So, and then she has to wait until she doesn't see any Dam for, I believe, 7 days. Well, I haven't needed it in a long time. But, okay. so the point is that during these 11 days in between, so if she sees Dam 3 days in a row, then she becomes a Zava. But if she sees Dam 3 times in 1 day, she's not a Zava. And that's the kasha against the Reb Meir. The Reb Meir says that, well, kal v'chomer. If an ox is a shamur, when the goring is spread out over time, then certainly when it's more concentrated in 1 day, it could be a shamur, which we say, well, that's not the case by a Zava. A Zava becomes a Zava if she sees Dam over the course of 3 days. 3 times in 1 day doesn't make her a Zava. Okay? So let's read that again. Second line of the Gemara, Zava tochiach. But I'll ask you a kasha from Zava, Sharicha kariosea, that if the ri'os of Dam are spread out over 3 days, Timeya, but kerva riosea ta'ora. But if she sees Dam 3 times in 1 day, she's ta'ora. So Omar Lohen, Sir Meir responds, Meh. Hareru Omer, look, we have a passage in the context of Zav. Who can tell me what a Zav is? Okay. A Zav is a fellow who sees some kind of not semen-y kind of thing. Thank God I don't know what it is. But some kind of not semen-y kind of thing. So if he sees it twice, he becomes what's called a Zav Ka'in. And it's an Avatuma. And if he sees it 3 times, it becomes a Zav Gadol, which the difference is he has to bring a korban for a Zav Gadol. Fine. So now, when it comes to a Zav, it does not need to be spread out. If he sees Ziva twice in 1 day, he's a Zav. So says the Gemara. Harei Omer, that the Pasuk says by a Zav, V'zos tieh tumasu bezovo. This is his tuma as a Zav. And the pasuk there says Zav 3 times in the pasuk. What does it say? It says V'zos tieh tumasu bezovo. Robusor is zovo. Echtem besor is mizovo. Tumasu hi. So it says Zav 3 times in the pasuk, and so it could be even 3 times in 1 day. Right? It's about seeing it. It's not about spread out over days. So Tola Kosov is a Zav b'ri'os, v'es a Zav b'yamim. So a Zav is about seeing Ziva 3 times. It doesn't have to be spread out over 3 days. Even 3 times in 1 day is enough. or 2 times to be a zav kohen. Ves hazava b'yomim. But a zava is about the days. Meaning, right? So let's go weiter. Mimai dehai v'zos lemute zava mirios ema lemute zav miyomim. So because the pasuk says v'zos tiyat tumasu b'zava. Zos is, we're saying it's specific to zav, and what we're saying is that specifically a zav will be based on re'ios if he sees 3 times in a day. But that's not the case by a zava. 3 times in a day won't work. It has to be 3 times over 3 days. But the question is, how do we know that vizos is coming to exclude a zava from seeing it 3 times in one day? Maybe it's excluding a zav from seeing it spread out over several days. Maybe a zav needs to see it dafka 3 times in one day. Right? So again, the Gemara asks 5 lines into the page, I think 2, 4, 6 lines into the page. Mimai dahai vizos lemute zava merios. How do we know that vizos is coming to exclude a zava from reios, to say that a zava is all about 3 days, not about 3 times in one day? Maybe I'll say that zos is to say that no, a zav dafka needs to see 3 times in a day, but not 3 times over 3 days. On my crow, the pasuk says v'azav es zov lazacher v'lanakeva. Well, it says by a zav that it says lazacher v'lanakeva makish zacher l'nakeva. We're comparing a zav to a zava, right? A zacher to a nekeva. So my nekeva by yomim, avzacher by yomim. So just like a nekeva can be spread out over 3 days, so oichid a zav can be spread out over 3 days. V'lakish nekeva lazacher. Why don't we compare nekeva to zacher? Ma zacher b'yos ap nekeva b'yos. That just like by a zav, it 3 times in a day works, so also by a zava, let's say that 3 times in a day would make her a zava. Hamiyet rachmana vizos. Yeah, but the pasuk says vizos, to exclude a zava from 3 times in one day. Umara isa. But one second, how did we decide that vizos comes to exclude a zava from re'ios? Maybe vizos should exclude a zav from yomim. How did you decide that it's the zav mirios that's being excluded? Maybe why not say that it's a zav miyomim? So mistaver koi birios mimayit rios koi birios mimayit yomim. Right? It makes sense that, well, if we're talking about rios, right, the pasuk by zav where it says vizos tia tumasu bezovo, right, and it's talking about rios, it sees it, right? It's if he sees the dam the ziva in 3 times. So therefore, if it says vizos in the context of seeing, so it's excluding seeing in a different scenario, which would be the zava is excluded from seeing when she sees dam 3 times in a day. Rather, it's spread over time. So therefore, all of that is to say, Reb Meir had said that if the ox gores 3 times in a day, so then it becomes a shor muad. If the ox nards 3 times in a day, it becomes a shor muad. And he learns that from a BavaKama. That if over time is a shor muad, so memele, when it's condensed, it's a shor muad. He said, yeah, but what about a zava? Over time, she's a zava, but condensed, she's not a zava. That's only because we have a special gzeres hakosov, because the pasuk by zav said vizos to exclude her from reios. But that's specifically because we have that gzeres hakosov. Otherwise, we would have made Reb Meir's BavaKama Tanur Rabbanan. The rabbis taught ezu muad. What is a shor muad? Kol sheidu bo shlosha yomim. Or if they warn him over the course of 3 days. Vitam sheyuhu atinokos mimash mishin bo ve'enu nogeach. And a short time is if the babies can play with the shore and it doesn't gore. Until Rabbi Yossi, that's Rabbi Yossi's opinion. You see what Rabbi Yossi did there? He made a Frankenstein, right? He took the shore muad of Rabbi Yehuda and the short tam of Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Shimon Oichid makes a Frankenstein. So Rabbi Shimon Omer says Rabbi Shimon muad kol sheidu bo shalosh paimim. That the shamur is if they warn if they warn 3 times. And we say 3 separate days. That's for chazara. if he wants to become a revert to being a short tam again, so that's over 3 days. So Reb Shimon uses the shor muad of Reb Meir and the short tam of Reb Yehuda. Amr Reb Nachman says, Reb Nachman Rav Ada bar Ahava halacha Reb Yehuda b'muad, that the halacha is like Reb Yehuda when it comes to muad, that it's a short muad if it's warned over 3 days. Sharei Reb Yossi modelo, because Reb Yossi holds like Reb Yehuda that shor muad is over 3 days. V'halacha Reb Meir b'tam, and it's like Reb Meir by a short tam that if it goes 3 days without goring, no, or yes, no. It's like Reb Meir when it comes to short tam that if the babies can play with it and it doesn't start goring. Shai Reb Yossi modelo, because that's what Reb Yossi says, like Reb Meir in terms of a short tam, that the babies can play with it and it doesn't gore. Amr Rav Nachman. So now Rav says to Rav Nachman, "V'leima ma'ar halacha Reb Meir b'muad." Why not say fakert? Why not say that halacha is like Reb Meir by muad, that 3 times in a day? Shai Reb Shimon modelo, because Reb Shimon holds like that. V'halacha Reb Yehuda b'tam. The halacha is like Reb Yehuda by a short tam that it goes 3 days without goring any of the oxen. Shai Reb Shimon modelo, because that's how Reb Shimon paskin. So Amar lei, and this is the 3rd time I believe that we're seeing this. Anak Reb Yossi svirally to Reb Yossi nimuko imo, as we've seen a number of times. That so says Rav Nachman. Well, because I always paskin like Reb Yossi, because Reb Yossi nimuko imo. Reb Yossi was very diligent. He's got his reasons and his rationale and his proofs in everything that he says, and therefore says Rav Nachman, we paskin like Reb Yossi, and therefore since Reb Yossi has the definition of shor muad like Reb Yehuda that it's over 3 days, we paskin like that. And since Reb Yossi has the by short tam like Reb Meir that if the babies can play with the shor and it doesn't get upset and it doesn't gore, so then we paskin like that based on Reb Yossi. So now we get to an interesting Gemara. Ibaylu de asa kasha. Shlosha yom dikatone liyeude toro liyeude gavra. Do you hear the kasha? I feel like I've been kind of like sidestepping it because we're getting to it now. When we say that the ox needs to be warned over 3 days, what does that mean? Does that mean that the ox needs to gore on 3 separate days? Or is it possible that even according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says 3 separate days, maybe the ox could have gored 3 times on the same day, but they warn the owner, let's call him Ruvain, on separate days. Let's read that again. When we're talking about 3 days, is liude Torah that the ox needs to gore on 3 separate days? O liude gavra? Or does it say that the ox can gore on 1 day, but we need to inform and warn his owner Ruvain on 3 separate days? L'man afkamina, what's the difference? Well, for example, if 3 groups of witnesses came on 1 day, right? So in our example, let's say, so Reuven is the owner of the ox. Reuven owns an ox, and Reuven's ox gores Shimon's ox, gores Levi's ox, gores Yehuda's ox, and we're going to assume in this Gemara, like Rava earlier on in the daf, that on the 3rd goring already it would be nezek shalim. Okay, so when Reuven's ox gored Shimon's ox, it was chatzi nezek. When Reuven's ox gored Levi's ox, it was chatzi nezek. But when Reuven's ox gored Yehuda's ox, it's already nezek shalim. So now, so what if Reuven's ox gored Shimon's ox, Levi's ox, Yehuda's ox, and then Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda all come to Reuven on the same day with witnesses, right? Shimon comes with 2 witnesses, Levi comes with 2 witnesses, Yehuda comes with 2 witnesses. They come knocking on Reuven's door on the same day. Right? So again, right. So we said, the mind of Kamina, what's the difference? That if Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda all came with their respective witnesses to Reuven on the same day. If we're saying that it's the goring that needs to happen on 3 separate days, which is what happened. Okay, so Ruvain's ox gored Shimon's ox on Sunday. Ruvain's ox gored Levi's ox on Monday. Ruvain's ox gored Yehuda's ox on Tuesday. Right, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, on 3 separate days. And then on Wednesday, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda all go to Ruvain and say, Ruvain, what the heck? So if you say Torah, if we say that it's the goring that needs to be on 3 separate days, so miyayid. So then when they all come to Ruvain on Wednesday, so it's a shormud. Gavra, but if you say that the warning that Ruvain needs to be warned on 3 separate days, so we can actually give him an opportunity to actually make changes. Lo miyayid. So then, if they all come, at once on Wednesday, the shor will not be a shormud because Meimer Amr Hashda would become a sadubi. Wait, give me a chance. You're all coming at the same time. You're all testifying at the same time that my ox is a nudnik. Give me a chance. Give me a chance to fix my ways. So what's the halacha? Tashma coming here. Ein asher nice mud. So a shor can only become a shor muad if the testimonies, if Shimon's testimonies, Levi's testimonies. Oh, I gotta sneeze. It may have been a false alarm, but now I'm on high alert because it might sneak up on me. So what just happened? Okay, so Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, they all need to testify bifnei bailim, in front of Ruvain. Ruvain has to be there when they testify. Bifnei bezdin, and also, or at least when they bring their witnesses, and also in front of bezdin. Heidubo bifnei bezdin v'shlo bifnei bailim. If they came to bezdin but Ruvain was not there, bifnei bailim v'shlo bifnei bezdin. If they testified before Ruvain but it was not in bezdin, eino naise muad. The ox will not be a shamud ad she'idu bo bifnei bezdin bifnei bailim. The testimony will have to be in front of bezdin, and Ruvain will have to be there. Now, heidu shnayim barishona v'shnayim b'shniya v'shnayim b'shlishis. So if 2 witnesses testify that Ruvain's ox gored Shimon's ox, 2 witnesses testify that Ruvain's ox gored Levi's ox, 2 witnesses testify that Ruvain's ox gored Yehuda's ox. Harekan shalosh eduyos. There are 3 separate eduyos, and therefore if one of them turns out to be irrelevant, so that one goes away, but the other 2 remain intact. Vehein edus achas la'azom. But with regard to edim zomimin, they're all one, right? Meaning, right, because it's collectively the testimonies of all 3 that make Ruvain's ox a shor muad, so they're all, in order to be chayav as edim zomim for nezek shalim, all 3 of them would have to be edim zomim. Well, of course, edim zomim, right? If you have witnesses who testify, and then other witnesses come and say, "Hey, how are you guys testifying? You were with us somewhere else on that day." So vasisim l'kasher zomim, they have to do what they were trying to make the other person do, right? So in this case, essentially, if the the result of all 3 testimonies is that Reuven needs to pay Yehuda for the 3rd goring nezek shalim, and it was kind of a result of all the testimonies together. So only once all of them become edim zomim would we have to kind of figure out how to pay back nezek shalim, which is what they effectively were coming to do. So now, nimtes kas rishonos zomemis. So if the first, right, if Shimon's witnesses turn out to be edim zomim, harekan shtei edios. So you still have 2 witnesses. 2 groups of witnesses left. Vehu pater vein petur. And Ruvain will not have to pay Yehuda nezek shalim, since you don't have 3 groups of witnesses anymore. And also, Shimon's witnesses will not have to be on the line for nezek shalim, because it's only one group, right? Only one of the 3 groups were made edim zomim. Nimtzeis kas shniya zomemis. If Levi's witnesses also become Edim Zomim. Harikan Edus Achas, well, you still have one left over. V'hu Pater Vein Peturim. So again, Reuven will not have to pay Nezek Shalom to Yehuda, and Levi's witnesses will not have to pay Nezek Shalom as Edim Zomim. Nimtzeis Kas Shlishes Zomemes. Now, if the third group, if Yehuda's witnesses also turn out to be Edim Zomim, well, if that's the case, Kulan Chayavin, well then Be'etzem, there's going to be Hazama with regard to the Nezek Shalom, and they're essentially going to have to divide it, the Nezek Shalom part, among themselves. Okay, Valzenemar, and it says about this, Vasisim lo kasher zomim v'gomer, that you will do to them what they were trying to do to Reuven. Now, how does this tie in to trying to figure out if the muad is, the 3 days for muad is on the ox or on the owner? It must be that it's on the ox, but the owner can be testified about on one day, because the Amrit li'ayudei Torah shapir. If you say that the 3 days are for the ox, okay, so Reuven's ox gored Shimon's ox on Sunday, Levi's ox on Monday, Yehuda's ox on Tuesday, but then on Wednesday, Levi gathers together. Yehuda gathers together. Right? Yehuda is the one who stands to gain by Reuven's ox being a shor muad, because he was the third one. Right? Yehuda was the third one to be gored. Right? And it's like we're assuming like Rava, at least according to the way Rashi understands it, we're assuming like Rava that on the third one already it would be Nezek Shalom. So Yehuda is the one who wants to get Shimon and Levi's witnesses together with his witnesses, so that there's proof that by the time that Reuven his ox gored his Yehuda's ox, it was a shor muad at that point. So he collects together all 6 witnesses, all 3 groups of witnesses of 2. So then they all come to Bezdin, and they testify on the same day. So then I understand. We'll go weiter for okay. So be'etzim, then I understand how they could all be Eidim Zomim, because they're all coming on the same day, right? And therefore all of them are coming to Bezdin on the same day. And when Yehuda comes and he says to Shimon's witnesses, "Hey, Shimon's witnesses, I need you to come with me." And he says to Levi's witnesses, "I need you to come with me to Bezdin." And Yehuda is collecting all the witnesses together. So clearly they know that all 3 groups are coming on the same day. And they know what's going on. They know that collectively they're going to make Reuven's ox into a shor muad, and then he's going to be chayav nezek shalom. So be'etzem, they all know what they are conspiring to do. Be'etzem, their testimonies, which are apparently is now fake, they are fully aware that their testimony is going to lead to nezek shalom and making Reuven's shor muad. But if you're saying that we have to testify against Reuven on 3 separate days, which means that Shimon's witnesses are coming on Wednesday, Levi's witnesses are coming on Thursday, Yehuda's witnesses are coming on Friday, so Leimu Hanoch Kamoi, so let Shimon's witnesses say, Onon mi'avi adinon, why should we be chayiv to pay nezek shalom because of vasisim lo kasher zomim? Sure, they turned out to be frauds, but as far as they knew, they didn't know. Mihavi Yadinon, did we know? Then on Friday, did I know? Shimon's witnesses are saying, I had no clue that on Thursday Levi's witnesses were going to come, and then on Friday Yehuda's witnesses are going to come, and that I was being part of some scheme to get Reuven to pay Nezek Shalom. I didn't know that this was happening. Why should Shimon's witnesses are going to say, why should we be on the line for Nezek Shalom? Because Vasisim lo kasher zomim, we had no clue. We didn't know that more witnesses were coming. We should only be on the line for half damages. So Amr of Ashi, Amisha the Shmaita comedy of Kahana. So Rav Ashi says that he says this before Kahana, and he says, Rav Kahana says, but v'li'aude Torah, that even if you say like that the ox needs to attack on 3 separate days, but the warning of Reuven could be on the same day. But minicha, does that necessarily help things? V'leimu hanach basroi, let Yehuda's witnesses come and say, Anon minoy adinon, Dechol dekoi beidina la'asudi b'torah ka'asu. Onin l'chiyuv v'gaver palgan iska asinon. Did you get the kasha? That even if they're all coming on Wednesday, they're all coming on the same day to testify against Reuven, okay, fine. So clearly, Shimon's witnesses understand what's going on, and Levi's witnesses understand what's going on, because Yehuda is calling them up, and he's saying, hey, Levi's witnesses, Shimon's witnesses, I need you to come with me to Bezdin. Levi's witnesses, I need you to come with me to Bezdin. And they show up in Bezdin, and they see that Yehuda's there with his witnesses, and he's very upset. And so they all realize that, oh, I get it, right? Shimon's witnesses, Levi's witnesses, they realize Yehuda gathered us all together so that he can make the case that this is a shor muad and he can nezek shalim. Yehuda's witnesses, however, they say, we didn't know that Yehuda was gathering together two other groups of witnesses and we were part of this whole shor muad case. We didn't know. For all we knew, this was the first time. This was Reuven's ox's first offense. So therefore, if Kahana points out that even if you say that the testimony against Reuven is happening on the same day, Yehuda's witnesses can still say, we had no clue that we were part of this shor muad situation. For all we knew, we were the only witnesses coming. Right, again, V'lei Muhanoch, about 4 or 5 lines into the page, V'lei Muhanoch basroi, let Yehuda's witnesses say, Onon, how did we know that all these other witnesses that were coming to Bezdin Lasude B'Torah Ka'asu were coming to testify by Reuven's ox? We came as Yehuda's witnesses. We thought that we were only testifying for half damages. We should only be on the line for that. They come Ramzeh Muze. Well, they're doing all sorts of signs to each other, so they're all in it together. Ravashi says, well, they all came together, so it became clear, when they got to Bezdin, that they all came together as a group. So, Yehuda's witnesses knew that, that they were part of this group. Ravina says it's talking about, Yehuda's witnesses, they recognized, Yehuda's witnesses recognized Reuven as the one that they were testifying against, but they didn't recognize his ox. Now, if they were in fact coming to testify about Chatzi Nezek, of course Chatzi Nezek is paid migufo, right? Is paid from the body of the offending of the damaging ox. So if they were really coming to testify about Chatzi Nezek, so then they should know which ox it was. But they didn't, so they knew that they were testifying about Nezek Shalim. Ella heichi miyaydei lei. But if they don't recognize Reuven's ox, then how could they testify about him in the first place? Right? The whole point of testifying is so that he can fix his ways. But if he doesn't know which ox it is, then what are they testifying about? Well, they say, somewhere in your flock there's an offending ox. Be careful with all your oxen. All right. If we saw this at the end of the daf yesterday, if Reuven incites Shimon's hund against Levi, what's the halacha? So Reuven is definitely potter, right? Because Reuven isn't doing anything; he's causing Shimon's hund to damage, but Reuven himself isn't damaging. Bal Kelev mai. But what about Shimon? Should Shimon be chayiv? Mi'aminun matzi omar lei onamay avidno lei. Can Shimon say, "Look, what did I do?" Reuven's the one who incited the hund, not me. Odim aminun lei came into yodata bekalbucha the mishasi lei umishtasi lo iboyilach leashuye. Or maybe we can say to Shimon, "Look, but you must have known that your dog gets a little bit excited. You must have known that that your hund has the tendency that if somebody would get excited and it can go hurt somebody." So Amr Zeir says, Reb Zeir Tashma, come in here. Vitam, that what's considered a short tam, sheyehu atinokis b'mashmishin bo ve'enu nogeach. It's a short tam if the babies can play around with it and it doesn't gore. Hanogea chayev. But if it gores, so then you would be chayev. So let's say here as well that Reuven incites Shimon's hunt. Shimon should be chayev. Abai mikatoni noga chayev. Abai says, wait a second. It doesn't say that if the shore gores, then the shore would be chayev. Dilma nogach lo avetam. Maybe all it means is that if it gores, then it would no longer be a tam, but uvai negicha lo michayev. But he wouldn't be chayev for that goring, right? So maybe right with the test about if the baby's playing with the ox and it doesn't gore. So if the baby plays with the ox and doesn't gore, so then it's a short tam. If it gores, then it's a short mu'ah. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Shimon is going to be that the owner of the ox is going to be chayiv for that. Toshma, coming here. Where am I? Shisabos hakeleb. So if Reuven incites Shimon's hunt against Levi, Shisabo Nachash, or Shimon's snake, Potter. So my love, Potter Mishasa. So say what that means is that Reuven is Potter v'chayiv bal kelev, but Shimon would be chayiv lo. Emer Potter af Mishasa. No, even the inciter is Potter, but Shimon would be as well. Rava says, if we say that if Reuven incites Shimon's hunt against Levi, Shimon is chayiv. Shisahu be'atzmo potter. But if Reuven incites Shimon's hunt against himself, so then Shimon is potter. My time outcome call mishanu va'achav v'shinabo potter. Right? It's like we learned the other day that if there's like kind of a double strangeality, so then potter. And I assume what it means. This is how I understand is that I guess Reuven inciting Shimon's hunt is probably considered not normal, and then also we're talking about Karen here, which is generally not normal. So therefore, it's a double, not normal, and therefore Shimon will be potter. Amarle Rapapa l'Rave, it says Rapapa to Rave. Itmar mishmei de Rish Lakish kavasech, that it was taught in the name of Rish Lakish like you. And to Amar Rish Lakish, we saw this the other day. The Rish Lakish says Shtei paros b'shus harabim. If you have two cows in b'shus harabim, achas revutza b'achas maleches, one of them is squatting and the other one is walking. Uvata maleches bervutza, and the walking cow kicks the squatting cow, and then the squatting cow says, "Ouch! What'd you do that for?" And the kicking cow says, Petura. So then the kicking cow, the owner of the kicking cow, is Petura because it's a double weirdness, right? It's not, I guess, regular for the first cow to be squatting, and it's not regular for the second cow to kick. But if the squatter kicks the walker, so then the owner of the squatter is chayiv, because then it's just like he's the only weird party there. Okay, so Rava says no. So we see that Rish Lakish holds like you, that a double weird situation is potter. Amalei, to which Rava responds, meh. Ana behi chayuve michayavna. No, in that case of the cows, I would actually say that even if the walking cow kicks the squatting cow, the owner of the walking cow would be chayav de amrla, because the squatting cow's owner says, look, ki islach rishusa the saguya alai. Look, if my cow is just squatting there in rishusa rabim, so you could step on my cow, fine. But livute bi leislach rishusa, you can't kick me. That's right. That's not allowed. That's not allowed. Now, which one of y'all kicked me? Which one of y'all kicked me? All right, Chever. Wow, what a daf. Oof. A lot went on in that daf. We said What's considered short tam? What's considered short muad? We started with machlokas Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Meir. Rabbi Yehuda had said that a short muad is a shore that gores on 3 separate days. A short tam is if he goes 3 separate days and he sees other oxen and doesn't gore them. Reb Meir says that even 3 times in one day is considered a short muad, and if babies can play with the ox and it doesn't gore, so then it becomes a short tam again. It's considered a short tam. Now, ultimately, we paskin, right, like Rabbi Yossi, because Rabbi Yossi nimuko imo, and Rabbi Yossi kind of has a Frankenstein version, which we paskin like, which is that a short muad is if it gores on 3 separate days, and then a short tam is if the babies can play with it and it doesn't gore. Now, in terms of the 3 separate days thing, we had a kasha. Does it mean that the ox gores on 3 separate days, or that the owner gets warned on 3 separate days? Ultimately, it sounded like we said that he's talking about that the ox gores on 3 separate days, but the owner can get warned even on the same day. Okay, and then we again reference that the sugya of groma when it comes to nizakin, which is kind of interesting. Right, if Reuven incites Shimon's hunt against Levi, So we definitely say that Reuven is going to be potter because he didn't actually do anything; he just caused something. Now it wasn't exactly super clear, I guess, if Shimon would be chayiv there, but that was the shayla. Friends, that was the Avchav Dal Masechta BavaKama. Hope you enjoy. Peace out.